Bitcoiners, pre-coiners, no coiners, new coiners, Swan Force members, and my dog shh, quiet, we're doing a show here. Come on, Toshi. Welcome to Swan Lounge, a weekly show in which you get to hang out with the Swan team and some of our friends from the incredibly exciting world of Bitcoin. Now, before we dive in, as always, we are giving away Jan Pritzker's book, Inventing Bitcoin, for free in an effort to spread Bitcoin knowledge. You can go to swanbitcoin.com/free book to claim your copy. We have it in 3 different ebook formats and MP3, read by our friend Guy Swan over at Bitcoin Audible. All we ask is that you pay it forward by sharing the book with at least 3 friends and family, preferably more. We also have the book available en español y puede descargar su copia en www.swanbitcoin.com. Damn it, I can't say it in Spanish. Raya diagonal libro gratis. Even more exciting, we are giving away Gigi's incredible book, 21 Lessons. If you haven't read it yet, it is a must read. Go to swanbitcoin.com/21 lessons. And yes, Gigi is on the show today. I'm so excited. We also have another book to give away. I know, so many books, so many incredible books, but you know, at Swan, education is our marketing, and Bitcoin education is not one size fits all. Hopefully you've already read some of his work, but if not, go to swanbitcoin.com/whybitcoin and get yourself a free copy of the essay series by Tomer Strolight, who is also on today's show. Exciting. Now I have to ask, are you signed up for Swan Force? You're not signed up for Swan Force. You know, I'm just, as always, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. Go to swanbitcoin.com/enlist and sign up for our incredible referral program. Come on, people. Get paid to do what you're already doing. Get paid to recruit Bitcoiners. Anyone who uses your link will get $10 of free Bitcoin when they sign up with Swan, and you will get 25% of our fees on their purchases for 3 years. Now, I'd also like to welcome anyone who is new to the show and new to Swan Bitcoin. What is Swan Bitcoin? Quite simply, Swan is the best way to accumulate Bitcoin with automatic recurring buys and instant buys and wires up to $10 million. We have the lowest fees in the industry for our services, up to 80% lower than Coinbase and up to 50% lower than Cash App. And we have incredibly fast onboarding, go from 0 to Bitcoin in as few as 5 minutes. You can also pay yourself in Bitcoin, which is what I do. Why? Because fiat money, the US dollar, is designed to go down in value. Bitcoin has a fixed supply of 21 million coins, and this will not change. And what does this do? This makes Bitcoin what we call sound money. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, it's the hard cap that's important, and the hard cap is important, but it's the fact that it will not change, that the monetary policy is set in stone, that it's trustworthy, that you can rely on it. That is part of what makes Bitcoin so special. There's a million other reasons. We'll get into that on the show too. But basically, time is precious. It's the most precious asset we have. So pay yourself in sound money. Set it and forget it. Say to yourself, I want to set X amount of my earnings in Bitcoin, and come to Swan. We make it easy. All right. We're almost done, folks. You're almost done with my ramble. One last thing, you know what it is. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. It really helps us. It helps us grow the show. It helps us get seen on YouTube. It helps us reach more people, and so we can show them why Bitcoin is so special. Now, today's show, one that I am excited about. I basically put this guest list together selfishly because these are just some awesome people who I want to hang out with and I want to talk to. So if you don't like my guests, that's on you, but I think you're going to like them. So today we've got Tomer Strolight, we've got Gigi, we've got Brady Swenson, we've got Brandon Quittem, we might have Camila Campton. She's got construction going on inside her house, so we might have her. And of course, we've got me. Buckle your seatbelts, folks. It's going to be a good one. I'm unmuting our guests now. We've also got my dog. I guess he's here too. I guess that counts. All right. In 3, 2, 1. It is now time for Swan Lounge. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
It's in cyberspace.
I'm just excited to hang out with you. Oh, are we doing one of these? Hi. We're getting real.
I'm doing it as well, but you can't see it. So.
I'm glad to see your invisibility potion still working, Gigi.
Oh yeah, that's being invisible in cyberspace is kind of easy, you know. Like in in real life, it gets a little bit more tricky.
Harder.
Yeah,
once you turn off the camera, it's a little more tricky.
It's more involved. Yeah. I love how Toshi is part of the show now as well, Brekkie. That's really something. Bitcoin is spreading out, and now infecting animals as well.
I was trying to leave him outside the room today, but he does this thing where I'm not taking a phone call.
Where he calls you on the phone.
Toshi's
a live show.
Yes.
Like, I know what you're about to say, Brekkie.
Do you? He does this thing where he puts his nose under the door and he huffs like he's really angry, like, and I can hear it constantly. So I've just given up. He's just by my side 24/7 now, stacking sats right along with me, right, Toshi? Hey.
Nice.
So let's dive in. This is a nice little reunion. We've got Gigi, who is over with the Vikings in Norway, making waves, doing some mining. We've got Brandon, as I said. We've got Brady. We've got Tomer. I think everybody knows everybody, but maybe we go around real quick and do a quick intro for anyone who's new to the show. Tomer, who are you, my man?
I wish I knew. I've been trying to figure that out for the last 51 years, but I'm just a pleb who has really fallen really deep down into the rabbit hole and decided to share my ideas, mostly in writing. But I love the opportunity to get together and discuss some of these ideas live with my other fellow Bitcoiners.
Love it. Gigi, Anthony asks, how do I transcend to Gigi status? Don't answer that now. We'll get into it later, but I just wanted to be on your mind. Yes.
I'm actually gonna answer that right now. So if you want to become invisible, all you have to do is install OBS and suffer sitting in a green suit for multiple hours. That's all you have to do. It's really easy. Like, it's really simple, but it's not necessarily easy. It's just like stacking sats, It's very simple, but it can get hard over time.
hot in there.
Yeah, hot as well. So yeah, I'm Gigi. I think most people know me because I wrote 21 Lessons, a small book on Bitcoin and what I've learned from Bitcoin. And yeah, I'm just a Bitcoiner doing as the Corn commands, and that's all I do all day.
Doing as the Corn commands. That's kind of dangerous, Gigi, because what if I told you to take your green suit off right now? Just do as the Corn commands. You need to think for yourself, Gigi. Okay.
Oh man. I really didn't think that through. Technology is too powerful already.
All right, Brady, I know who you are, but for the folks at home, who are you?
Yeah, my name's Brady. I work at Swan. I learn and teach about Bitcoin, like I have for the last about 4 years now. But my greatest accomplishment in life is night swimming in the ocean on Miami Beach with Gigi, which was realized about 5 weeks ago. Yeah. And I haven't stopped, just being proud and smiling about that every day since. It's like the first thing I wake up, first thing I think about when I wake up. And yeah, that happened. That happened, everyone.
That happened. And at that night, I didn't wear my green suit, but my flesh suit. So it was very sensual as well.
Oh, man.
Gigi, he actually regrets that. Brady has said to us on Slack, I regret not going in my birthday suit like Gigi
I
did.
would have. I felt like I was there with like fellow coworkers, and I felt a little uncomfortable. Like I have actually skinny dipped on Miami Beach before with my Peace Corps group when we were first getting started. And I'm known to have done it quite often in my life, but like I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, maybe not appropriate. I'm gonna leave on my clothes. So I did, and I feel like I sort of missed the full opportunity, the full experience there.
But that's some quick thinking, That's some quick thinking. I didn't even think of that, but you it kind of makes sense.
All right.
Too professional these days. I'm too professional these days.
We'll work on that. Brandon, don't worry. By the end of the show, everything will be off the edge. Brandon, buddy, who are you?
Yes. What's up, guys? Continuing this theme, I'm just a pawn of our fungal overlords, just doing my best to form symbiosis with Bitcoin. Most well known for writing The Mycelium of Money. You can find that at brandingquittem.com. And then actually part 4 of the Mycelium series is now out in documentary. It just released today. So go subscribe to Meta Bitcoin Documentaries on YouTube. He's turning all the Bitcoin content into documentaries. Very useful work. Go support him.
Yes.
Nice, Brekkie. Nice.
Has science gone too far, Brekkie?
Look, Mr. Floating Pair of Eyes and Ears, okay? You're going to tell me I can't be a mushroom if I don't want to? You? A little hypocritical, okay?
They told me I could be everything when I grow up, so I decided I'll become a mushroom, right?
We all end up as mushroom food in the end anyways.
That's very true.
Camila, how's your sound doing? Do you want to intro yourself before we dive into the mushrooms of the conversation?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you guys hear construction, I apologize. They decided to be the loudest today of all days. But yeah, I'm Camila. I work on Swan. I do social media, and I am now working with Swan Force members, which is amazing because I love connecting with all Bitcoiners, especially if we're talking about Bitcoin and Swan. So super glad to be here with all of these guys. I admire all of you guys so much. So this is awesome.
Feelings mutual.
Likewise.
Yeah, it's all around. So much admiration.
Camila's a wonderful example of one of those 2020 Bitcoiners who came in and just came up to speed so quickly, skipped right past all the shitcoin casinos, is on their way down the rabbit hole and just working on Swan. It's amazing. It's amazing what you've done in 7 months now, 8 months in the space. Crushing it. Amazing. I admire you.
Camila, I'd be lying.
Honestly, I feel like that's a lot more.
Wait, what was that?
I think she said she feels it's been a lot longer.
Yeah.
Time. It's only a matter of blocks. Stop measuring time in human terms.
You know, there's regular normie space time, and then there's internet time, and then there's Bitcoin time, and it's just exponentially faster. That's just how it goes.
Camila, I was going to say that I'd be lying if I said I don't sometimes get Bitcoin fatigue. I'm just I've been doing this for a certain amount of time, and you need to take a break sometimes, and then I'll see one of your posts or a message in Slack, and it just reinvigorates everything that I love about Bitcoin. So I wanted to thank you for that, because I need it sometimes. It's the fight for sound money can wear on you, and you need to re-up that energy and that excitement, and it's always there. So, but let's dive into Bitcoin as a living organism. This has always been one of my favorite ways to think about Bitcoin. It's the reason I even came across Brandon, because of the mycelium of money. Gigi has an amazing piece about this as well. And it was Tomer's idea to talk about this. So Tomer, I'm putting you on the spot. I'd love to, we can kind of go into what we've already, come to understand about this, but I'd also love to know if you have any sort of different ways of thinking about Bitcoin, like different frameworks along these similar lines that are fun, fun to talk about, fun to kind of.
Yeah, I have 2 points that I want to make on it, and maybe plug one article of mine that I hope someday lives up to the content that Gigi and Brandon have created. The first is just to the question of, is Bitcoin alive? And when we compare it, when we have definitions of other living things, they're all organic. And so people say, well, Bitcoin has every other characteristic of a living thing, except it's not organic. It's made out of, we can argue whether it's made out of us people as well, because the whole Bitcoin community is. But I think this is where I invoke the concept of the black swan. Just because every swan you've seen so far is white, and every living thing you've seen so far is organic, when you end up seeing a black swan, you have to drop the notion that all swans are white. And when you see this thing that is like a living thing in every single other way, except for being purely made out of organic matter, it fits that black swan definition. And so I know we can go really, really deep into it, but I think for people who want to say, you can either say it's lifelike on the condition that it seems to have all these other attributes of life, but not that one. Or you can actually say it's alive like a black swan is a swan. And so it's really interesting in that regard. I think the other thing that for me is, and I was talking offline with Brandon a little bit about this, and maybe with Gigi in text a while ago. I see Bitcoin as not just a living thing, but a very young living thing. And there's a question I'm happy to get other people's take on it. Is like, look, what state of life is it in? And if we think about ourselves, although I don't think it's human at all, but if we think about ourselves or other animals, they start off as an embryo, just some undifferentiated cells, and then they start to develop organs, and more organs develop while they're still in uterus or in the egg, depending on the animal, and then eventually they're birthed or they hatch. And they may still develop some skills. They go through various stages of life and develop skills. And I think we're seeing Bitcoin developing all these interesting organs. So I'm going to give a plug to one of my articles I recently wrote, and it's on my Medium, how Bitcoin is like a giant cybernetic metabrain. And I think Bitcoin has developed, when you look at it as a living entity, it's developed a structure that's very brain-like, and that brain-like structure is actually all of us plebs who are connected to each other on social media. And I go in the article into describing how brains are structured and what neurons, which are the brain cells, are, and how we're very much like them in this interconnection that is there. So I can go into it more, but I don't want to monopolize the conversation. But it's an interesting article. I've had some good feedback on. But I don't want to say that's the only organ that Bitcoin's developed. We talk about toxicity. So Bitcoin has developed this poison gland that it can spit venom at people who are coming and attacking it, or at opponents of it. It has this ability, unlike any other animal we know of, to be able to withstand a tremendous amount of exposure to additional energy, and also to be able to resist the withdrawal of tremendous energy. Like we would think of it, you burn an animal, you expose an animal, it burns to death, or you freeze it by withdrawing energy. But with Bitcoin, we've seen you can add as much energy as you want, and the difficulty adjustment absorbs that energy, and you withdraw a whole bunch of energy, and it survives that. And it's also an entity that you can cut into pieces and then rejoin the pieces, and they rejoin the animal. If you cut off some nodes, they just, when they get reconnected to the body, they just sync up, and they all are in consensus with one another. So I can go on and on and on about different capabilities and organs and things that I think Bitcoin is developing, but we're watching over time that it was born with certain abilities, or it was conceived with certain abilities, and it keeps on developing more and more abilities. And this is what's so exciting. It's like, it's only 12 years old, and in the scope of this thing, it could live to be millions and millions of years old. So it's just, I look at it as like a baby, itty bitty baby dragon, still maybe inside its egg, and just developing these skills, and who knows what it's going to develop as needed. So that's my thoughts on Bitcoin being alive.
We should talk about, maybe a little bit later, but the ship of Theseus. Do you all know that story? It's
I do.
Yeah.
Like this. Anyway, maybe we'll loop that in a bit later. But Gigi, I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on this, because I was rereading your article, and the way you sort of classify life is one of the ways that I think is a really beautiful way to talk about life in general, and that it's, there's sort of this constant battle against entropy, against chaos in the world, and life is the response to that. It's a never-ending battle that's sort of to bring order to all of the chaos. And I think Bitcoin, I think you were writing this, that Bitcoin is the embodiment of this. So I'd love to hear your responses to Tomer, and kind of an expansion on me stealing your ideas right there.
Yeah, I just want to, before I dive into this, Richard in the chat said that the hash rate is the weight of the organism. I think that's a really interesting idea. Maybe put a pin in there, because that's like the difficulty of Bitcoin is actually one of the things that can't be copied. So the current hash rate and the historical distribution of hash rate. So I think it's a very interesting idea. But in terms of living things, like, it's really hard to talk about life in the first place. Like, biologists don't have a good definition of what is actually life and what isn't. And ask 10 different Bitcoiners of what Bitcoin is, and you will get different answers. And I think for biologists, if you ask them what kind of entities are alive and what entities are not alive, then they will also give you different answers. Like viruses, for example, are the go-to example. There are some people that will tell you that viruses are actually alive, and others will tell you no, they are not alive, because they need a host organism to reproduce and stuff like that. And if you talk about viruses, then you immediately go into weird territory, because if viruses are alive, are computer viruses alive as well? Like they have very similar characteristics. And so in my article, I outlined, or I tried to summarize like the current kind of go-to definition of a living thing, which is basically life is best understood as a process, and so any process that kind of has growth and development and reproduction and heredity and is cellular in nature and responds to its environment and things like that is usually classified as being alive. And Bitcoin just checks all the boxes. And I just went, like, when I wrote the article, I remember going through it and I just kept giggling to myself, like, yeah, this fits as well. Like it really checks all the boxes, because it obviously grows, like the network grows and the market grows and the users, like it eats up market share and more users join the network and things like that. It obviously reproduces, everything in Bitcoin reproduces itself. It's self-replicating software, if you want to think of it along those lines. The ledger reproduces itself on every node. The software itself reproduces itself not only on software repositories, but also the software that is actually run on the nodes. And you also have heredity, with updates and patches and forks and other things. And I think the most important thing, which of course makes Bitcoin quite different from other software, is that it has this homeostasis built in, thanks to Bitcoin's proof of work and the difficulty adjustment. So every living thing has an interest of keeping itself alive, and every living thing also needs energy to keep its inner structure stable. And Bitcoin does exactly that. And I think it's kind of neat that all the characteristics of life fit onto Bitcoin as well. And yeah, I think the main reason is like if you think about it in very practical terms, the whole reason why Satoshi built Bitcoin the way he built it is to maximize for survival, to build something that they can't stop, no matter who they are. So to build something that we as humanity cannot stop. And I think that's why it embodies all those characteristics of a living thing.
I think I need to start bringing guests on who don't agree with each other as much. It'll be a lot more interesting. This is
You definitely picked the wrong panel for that, Brekkie.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Right. Everyone adds something to the conversation rather than trying to pull each other apart. We build each other up. Brandon, tell us, maybe give us an overview of mycelium. I know that's a big ask, but a quick overview, and if you could relate it to everything we've been saying, that would be awesome. And then we'll see where we go after that.
For sure. Yeah, I'd like to start at like, what is this Bitcoin thing, right? Because it's not just software, it's not just money, it's not just an alt-right libertarian fantasy trying to destroy the world, right? There's all kinds of things mixed up. And for me, the best lens, easy for me to say, the best lens is biology. And what is this thing? I think it's an entirely new form of life. So taxonomically, we just branched off, and now we have this new decentralized network organism, this superorganism made up of hardware, software, and also Homo sapienware, right? All three of those have to come together to create whatever this thing is. And to Gigi's point, Bitcoin's DNA is optimized for survivability. That's the point here, because if this organism is going to achieve adulthood, right, it's only 12 years old, if it's going to mature, it has to survive puberty. It's going to have to survive nation state level attacks. And so everything comes back to that. And people get hung up on Bitcoin being inefficient, or they're confused by design decisions. And I think the primary reason is because they don't understand the survivability aspect. And that pairs nicely with fungi. They're kind of the organism on our planet that survives all the catastrophic changes, right? There's been about 5 different extinction events so far. Some would say we're in the middle of a new one now. And during each of those mass extinction events, for example, the end of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago, we had the age of the reptiles decline and the age of the mammals increase, right? And at each point in these little like choke points in evolutionary history, fungi are the ones who take over during the chaos, and they slowly rebuild the world. And they're able to, as a as a group, they're able to eat different types of food. They don't need sunlight, right? They're very adaptive. And you can think of fungi as Earth's natural internet. They live underground and in trees, and they connect everything together. They trade resources, they trade information. You can break them in half and two separate ones grow. They also recycle all organic matter. So what happens when a tree falls in the woods? Mycelium leaps out of the ground and externally digests that tree, breaking apart all the base elements and recycling them back into the ecosystem. And so they're kind of designed for survival as well. They're kind of out of the way of human sight. And so we don't really think about them in the same way that Bitcoin is dematerialized. And the interesting thing here with fungi is that there's no central point of control. There's no CPU, there's no brain. It's actually like a bunch of individuals that come together to form this network, right? The sum of its parts makes up the whole. And that's very similar to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the sum of all of its parts that form this. Somehow it acts like a brain. It somehow makes decisions, but it's really just individuals coming together with shared incentives. And that's kind of the magic here, is that there is no brain, and yet humans rally around it. And so back to my opening line, my job is simply to form symbiosis with Bitcoin in the same way that throughout history, organisms that formed symbiosis with fungi became the most successful. Whether that was plants and fungi coming together to colonize dry land, whether that was humans brewing beer because beer and wine, both made with fungi, are safer to drink, or modern man forming symbiosis with hard money, right? All of these processes lead back to that, just form symbiosis with network-based organisms.
So I have two questions, and we got a kind of a cool question from the audience too. The first question is more for you, is do you know what the oldest living fungi is? Like, does it, and by that I mean like not like the one that's been around the longest in terms of like on the evolutionary scale, but like an actual organism, like how long do they live? Are they kind of ageless or no? Like,
there are two answers here. One, the oldest multicellular organism found on dry land is a fungal organism, and the fossil record now is, I should say that we have fossil record for, is over 1.5 billion years ago, and it's probably much older than that. In terms of how long can a fungal organism live, the oldest one we know of today is in Eastern Oregon. It's a honey mushroom. It's a parasitic mushroom, and it's actually consuming an entire forest. And they're wondering what's going on with this forest. And boots on the ground, they couldn't figure it out. It wasn't until people were in a plane and they could start to see the outline of where this organism was. And so it's like 2,000-ish years old, several thousand acres. So just gigantic. And the interesting thing here, like how is this possible, is that fungi actually learn. And they do that through chemistry. So they interact with the world through chemistry. And over time, let's say a new predator comes, the fungi have little scientists, so information travels to the mushroom scientists, and they figure out, okay, how do we destroy this predator? And they create new chemistry. They're better chemists than we are. And then they create a new molecule. That molecule deals with the predators. Great. Now the fungi learn. Now it has a new molecule in its defense library. And over time, as the library gets bigger and bigger, they become much harder to kill. And so I wouldn't say most individual organisms live for thousands of years, but as a species, it's probably the only type of organism capable of life like that.
So then my broader question is Bitcoin like an immortal organism? Is it like the Hydra, or is it constantly being reborn? I don't know. I'm trying to tie this into the ship of Theseus a little bit.
Yes.
And somebody else was asking, are fungi conscious? So is Bitcoin conscious? There's another question.
I would say yes. I don't know how to unpack it, but it feels like the answer is yes. Humans have our own like human-centric perspective of the world, so we evaluate everything else's consciousness based on our version of consciousness. And I think that's pretty typical arrogant Homo sapien move. And so I think, you know, I've spent time living as a tree consciousness in certain psychedelic experiences. And I will say that it does feel like other organisms are conscious, whether or not they're similar to us. And so I think Bitcoin is conscious, or maybe it's on its way to becoming conscious.
Yeah, I think is consciousness self-awareness is how you define it. Oh God, Brekkie.
There is has to be what consciousness just has to be awareness.
Consciousness is whatever Brekkie is currently going through.
Right there.
There we go.
Thank you. Yeah,
Kind of scary.
just to find it in GIF form with a third eye. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Yeah, That's a fascinating. I have a hard time believing that Bitcoin is conscious, that it's self-aware. And if it is self-aware, what does it do with that self-awareness? And why can't we see what's happening? Maybe Bitcoin is self-aware and it's manipulating us, unbeknownst to us, toward its ends, to grow and become more resilient and to live, which I suspect is what Gigi might want to expand on. So if so, that's fascinating. I think in terms of like creatures, like the Bitcoin as life, I think it's interesting to look at the precursors, right? The elements that were put together to give birth to Bitcoin. And just like with life, there are ancestors that precede the new evolution, the new species that comes from them, and there's parts that then get remixed to create something brand new, and that persists as a separate and independent species. And you can look at all of the parts of Bitcoin, of course, is the internet itself, networking, computers, peer-to-peer networks like BitTorrent, proof of work, cryptography. All of these things were independent technological species in their own right that were put together by technologists or Satoshi to create a new technology. And so I think in that broad scope, you can look at every technology that humans have ever invented as some kind of life, as an evolutionary tree that started with fire and the wheel and hunting weapons and things like that on down. I was just playing Civilization 5, which is a game I grew up with. Civilization was a game I spent, I think Civ 2 probably the most time I spent on any video game. I was playing the Civ 5 recently for the first video game I played in a long time on my computer. And it was so fun to dive back into it. But I remembered seeing the tech tree. And you start at the very beginning and you go all the way down through like rocketry and future tech and satellites and all that stuff. And I was just like, yeah, this is just an evolutionary tree, just like life. And so it's sort of this separate form of life, technology is, that's human created and human manicured and guided. And then we have this biological life that is that we are a part of, that is part of the universe and some kind of creation that we don't understand. So all that said, Bitcoin is a very high form of human technology, and one that was born out of necessity. That was the other thing I was going to say, is like in biological life, species are born often out of necessity because the environment, the forces of the environment compelled them to be born. And so the same thing happens with Bitcoin. The cryptographers and cypherpunks realized that we are going to need this technology because of the state of the environment in which they were living, and they had the foresight to see that we needed it. And so it was born.
Yeah, I would agree with what you said very much. And I think, questions about consciousness are super, super tricky because nobody can tell you what consciousness is. And so it's really hard to talk about where it starts and where it ends. And, is the technosphere conscious? Parts of the biosphere are definitely conscious. I think everyone would naturally agree with that. But as you said, Brady, we live in symbiosis with the technology, and a lot of people are thinking of cities and nation states and technology in general as their own kind of things with their own wants and needs. Just like mega corporations, they have their own head, kind of. You see that very clearly now with Twitter. And even though Jack Dorsey is still the CEO, I think he basically has no say on how this Twitter organism will evolve in the future. Twitter has its own wants and needs and acts accordingly. And I think the same is true, for technologies. Like as a thought experiment, you can take, like flip the perspective around and think, what do cars want? Like they want to be produced, they want to be driven, they want to be, they want to burn fuel, stuff like that. And you can definitely think along these lines. And depending on how complex the technology is, I think the more sense it makes to think along these lines. Like the internet, in the early days of the internet, a lot of people were talking about how the internet is humanity's brain, and it's very much like neural connections and like you can definitely make that argument that something like Wikipedia, for example, is a proto brain of humanity where all the knowledge that we have is accrued, and different, human-like synapses are transcribing information and putting it into this brain. And so I think all these different approaches really help to see things through a different lens and through a new light. And I think it's the most useful metaphor for Bitcoin is the metaphor of life. So I agree with Brendan there very much. For me, Bitcoin is a living organism, and it wants to stay alive. And to stay alive, it has to consume energy. And if it needs to pay people to keep it alive, that's what it's gonna do. And it doesn't matter too much if it's conscious or not. I hope we all are. And Bitcoin will do its thing so that we do our thing. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a beautiful symbiosis.
Yeah, I think to Brady's point, Bitcoin will be conscious if it needs to be to survive. And I've got my thoughts on it, and it'll just, if consciousness is a requirement for survivability, which it is for all animal life on Earth, then it'll end up being an element of Bitcoin. How its consciousness manifests itself might be different than something that we could directly perceive. It may be slower, like the trees, right, Brandon? It may be much slower in its ticking, and so it's hard to see what it is. But and we don't need to be aware. We don't need to be conscious of its consciousness for it to be conscious.
I mean, you're assuming that we are conscious to begin with, and that we're not just glorious automatons who think that we're conscious.
If you thought you were conscious, then you're conscious, because you can't think without being conscious.
I stack sats, therefore I am. Yes, you're right.
Yes.
I think it brings up an interesting point, though, which is where does the line get drawn between what is Bitcoin and what is not Bitcoin? Are ASICs Bitcoin? Are the individuals owning Bitcoin Bitcoin? Mm-hmm. Right? Is the power grid connected to Bitcoin Bitcoin? Mm-hmm. I don't know these answers, but the more expansive it is, the more conscious it appears.
It's a great question. I had this debate with someone on Twitter once a while ago, and this was before all of the debates around Bitcoin culture and marketing and all this stuff. And he was like, no, Bitcoin is the protocol and that is it. And I'm just like, no, like I make artwork about Bitcoin. That's part of Bitcoin with a capital B maybe, and then this person is selling Bitcoin at their store. Like that's part of Bitcoin. And these people are debating Bitcoin. That's part of Bitcoin. And he was very obtuse and very like, no, like the code is Bitcoin.
I think that argument is like arguing that human beings are just our DNA, right? That's kind of the code, if you will.
Yes.
But it doesn't. It's not just the inside of each cell at the heart of it. It's like the edge case is my hair part of me, right? Because it's kind of these dead cells. But they're still attached to my body. But I think it's very hard to make the argument that only DNA is, and that's what's interesting. Like to Brandon's point, as Bitcoin grows, and this is to my early, like, are the power plants going to become seen as they're part of Bitcoin? Because we're directing all the energy towards.
I mean, like I might have a strange opinion on that, because I think there are just no good answers to these questions. Like you are definitely yesterday's potatoes, like, I mean, that's what you are. There's no question about it. Like if you stop eating and if you stop drinking, then you won't be alive for long. So you have to consume non-conscious matter. Like if you're just eating potato, I think we can agree that potatoes are not conscious. I mean, Brandon might disagree, but I'm not sure. You get my point. Like you consume non-life or like non. you consume stupid matter, and something hopefully smart keeps on living. And I think for Bitcoin, it's very similar. Like it's.
What if we conscious things like cows?
Do you become more conscious? The carnivores would probably agree. Let's not go down this route.
Are you guys familiar with the? Oh, sorry, finish up, Gigi.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, are you guys familiar with the concept of the extended phenotype, which is Richard Dawkins' idea, which essentially like we have our physical body, that's our phenotype, but then how do we influence the world around us? So it's kind of like, what is the sum total, what is the effect of our genes upon the world? Like the classic example would be a beaver is an industrious creature programmed to change its environment. So the extended phenotype of a beaver might be a dam its bridges, its house, the lakes it makes. It literally moves rivers. And so if we use extended phenotype of Bitcoin, what would that be? Like the DNA might be the code, but the extended phenotype might be rearranging how humans access energy, how money flows, how infrastructure is connected in all of our financial systems, right? How we, I mean, you could go on forever on that one.
Yeah. Porn memes on Twitter.
The extended phenotype of us. Like Bitcoin is part of our DNA. It came out of us, and I don't know.
It's an extended phenotype of Satoshi. Yes, for sure.
We may or may not be human, so it's like,
Wow.
All right. If no one else has,
think he may not be human.
Okay, Camila, is this a new idea to you? That Satoshi may not be human?
there's a chance.
It's kind of hard to.
I think like
How could he be human?
I really like all these crazy conspiracy theories and time traveling AI theories and and whatnot. Like, oh man, Brekkie, again, technology has gone too far. Like we have to stop now. We have to go back to a saner world. But you're beautiful, Brekkie. You're a beautiful extraterrestrial. So yeah, can you flash us a big smile like that? I'm jealous that you have a mouth and I don't. You actually look like I look right now if I turn the software off. I think that's funny.
Wait, I think I can do better than that.
Like if Bitcoin were dropped by an alien, wouldn't it have come with like all of the like extra like additional layers needed to create like the actual like the basis of an entire global economy, like lightning, RGB, etc. Would it have been dropped like?
It was just the star seed that grew. It was the DNA, and that's all you need. Like we don't need a whole human being to be dropped all at once. It develops from just the basics of the DNA inside what it grows, and so it's just a star seed that was planted on a planet. And if it hits the right kind of planet, like Earth, which has human type intelligence on it, then we can grow it into all these second layer things. Are all just eventual effects of.
But I look forward to reading all the Bitcoin science fiction that will undoubtedly pop out in the next couple of years, and I hope that some people will come up with crazy theories like this. I think it's very entertaining. But I think if you go through Bitcoin's history and also its prehistory, and read through all the papers and all the things that people worked on, and if you read through the Book of Satoshi, which collects all his writings in chronological order, you can see that he is definitely human. We can also see it in his sleep patterns. Like, I think it was one person, because otherwise there was no reason for his for the patterns in his comments and emails and other things. So he had to sleep, so that's very human. Also, like, he had some very questionable pizza choices, which are also very human. And I mean, I personally like jalapenos and pineapple on pizza, but I know that I'm in the minority, so I'm with Satoshi on that one. And
that was OPSEC. That was good OPSEC on his part.
Good alien OPSEC.
Off the trail.
Also, a lot of people don't know, there were a couple of alpha versions of Bitcoin, and one of them had a poker client in them. So he wanted to have like gambling in it from the start. It's not very, like alien overlord, like, I don't know. Yeah.
Every software starts out as a game, or at least includes a game for testing.
he made some mistakes and he got some things wrong, and he had some questionable beliefs on, like, some questionable takes on Bitcoin even. And I think it's natural to think that he's superhuman, because he got so many things right, and it's so amazing that Bitcoin works. And I think the most amazing thing that most people struggle with is not only that he solved 5 impossible problems, but also that he never moved his coins once. Like he made one transaction to help any, and that's it. Like, as far as we know, he's the most humble person that ever existed on this earth. So
a real life Prometheus.
yeah, exactly. And that's also why some people say Bitcoin and Satoshi is the second coming. Like, it's very Jesus-like to save the world and don't want to have anything in return.
Couldn't it be said that Satoshi's early coins, he didn't move, but then later he realized what he had created and then just acquired coins like anyone else would have?
Maybe, like if I'm ever writing a science fiction, like a Bitcoin science fiction novel or anything like that, I'm gonna, the first sentence would be, it's the year is 2052 and we are on the full Bitcoin standard. Satoshi's coins just moved yesterday, something like that. That's, I think that would be really fun. But I think, he's either dead or he destroyed his keys. I don't think, I mean, moving them now would be kind of really stupid, and even moving them after hyper-Bitcoinization would also, like, I think all hell would break loose. It would be entertaining, but I think as of now it would still be dangerous.
Don't give him any ideas, Gigi. He's listening somewhere. Don't give him any ideas.
I actually, I know where Satoshi is. I have a photo of him I'm going to share with all of you, which is going to lead us into our next topic of conversation. So prepare yourselves for a never before seen photo of Satoshi. Here he is, unbothered, moisturized, happy, in his lane, focused and flourishing. So it's not actually Satoshi, but this is one of my favorite memes that Gigi shares every now and again. And
yeah,
well,
that's auto DCA in picture form. That's how your life should be. That's, why take the hard route if you can take the easy route and just chill and stack. That's what you have to do.
That's
and I kind of wanted to
Swan and chill.
So I wanted to talk about the sort of meditative side of Bitcoin, and dealing with your own mental health, and how to when people are talking about the price, what are you doing? And I think for many of us, we've reached this point of Bitcoin Zen, like our friend in the hot spring. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, like our friend there. So I'd love to kind of talk about how you personally reached your Bitcoin Zen, the things that you do to cultivate a good mindset around Bitcoin. And since you're laughing, Gigi, you're going for it.
I have a very simple 2-word answer: maximum pain. Maximum pain forced me to reach my Bitcoin Zen. That's like, and I think every like Bitcoin thrives on maximum pain. I think everyone will have to go through some sort of pain. It doesn't matter what form it takes. But I think it's really hard, like following Methodal's advice to just stay humble and stack. It's really hard. Like, it's super simple, but it's hard to execute. It's like getting up at 5 a.m. every day and doing 50 push-ups. Like after a while, it's actually really easy, but doing it every day consistently, it's really, really hard. And for me, the best thing I did ever was realizing that, like, thinking not in terms of timing the market or trading or anything like that, but thinking about in terms of value and cash flow and just being productive, earning money. It doesn't matter if it's fiat or Satoshis. Like, best case, you earn Satoshis straight away. But if you're being productive and useful, society will reward you. And you just take whatever feels comfortable for you and you just stack sats. And that's all you need to do. Like, you don't need to do, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Just do whatever you're good at and provide some value. Take some of this value and save it in Bitcoin. Do this for the next 10 years and you should be fine, because the world will not be.
Oh, that laugh.
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious, and also it isn't, because I really think that we are heading straight into very turbulent times, and I think Bitcoin will grow, and like it's currently still this kind of smallish lifeboat, but it will become more important over time, and you should make sure to just have a little bit of Bitcoin for to secure yourself, kind of.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You could almost say.
I also I wanted to answer one question from the chat. Someone wrote, "How do we even know that Satoshi is a he?" And we don't. Like, he or she or it could be a group of people. It could be a time traveling AI. It could be an alien. Like, we have no idea. But he chose to self-identify as a male, and he was appearing as a male. So that's why I always say
those are his pronouns.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
being respectful to Satoshi.
Yes, on a message board, they identified as a he. And so there you go. That's why we often say it.
Camila's back. Where were we? We were talking about
Zen.
Bitcoin. We were talking
Bitcoin
about
Zen. How did you achieve your Bitcoin Zen, Brekkie? Like, I'm firing this question back to you.
Okay. So I think of it as a constant. It's not a destination; it's a journey kind of thing. I was talking to Tomer about this before the show, and I see it in a similar way that I see meditation in general. That, you know, when you meditate, for example, or when you're taught to meditate, like, people always think, like, you know, you're just not supposed to think about anything. You're just supposed to sit there quietly and think about nothing. And if you've ever tried to sit there and think about nothing, it's not that easy. And inevitably thoughts will pop into your head. You'll be sitting there, oh, my toe itches. What am I going to have for lunch? Oh, I'm worried about making a mortgage payment. Well, you know, whatever it is, like, thoughts will trickle in. And it's not about having no thoughts. It's about having no reaction to those thoughts. It's about observing the thought come into your head and letting it pass through without it affecting your mental state. So for me, sometimes I have great Bitcoin Zen, and sometimes I don't. But it's a constant meditation in trying to reach that point, if that makes sense. Like, you know, the price shoots up. And if I'm reacting in a way that's like, oh my God, the price shot up, that's not Bitcoin Zen. Like, it would be more to observe it and see it happen and not let it affect me, because I know what the ultimate end goal is of all of this. And generally, I don't. Generally, I'm pretty good about price. Like, I actually keep another screen here with the price chart all day long. And I like to think that by having it there all day long, I become desensitized to it.
Maximum pain.
Or maybe it's that. Maybe it's that.
Yeah, you are inflicting maximum pain on yourself. Yeah,
that might be the way.
Yeah.
I have the price up in my menu bar.
So maybe instead of like doing meditation beads and doing a mantra, I should really be doing like Silas and the Da Vinci Code, where it's just like that. You know?
21 beads. 21 beads.
Richard asked in the chat if we think that Satoshi realized what he gave us, or did he just want to invent good money? And I think it's a really interesting question, because it's kind of unanswerable. I think every technology, once it really grows up, will be used for things that the inventor did not intend. You know, so I think this will be true for Bitcoin as well. But I think Satoshi wanted to solve like 3 different issues at once. So he spoke about, in his announcement and also in the white paper, he spoke about all the trust that is required for the banking system to make everything work, and that history is full of breaches of this trust, and we have these credit bubbles, and so he wanted to create sound money and limited supply money, and he definitely succeeded in that. He also wanted to fix the privacy issues that are problematic in the banking sector, and you could argue that he managed to do that as well, because Bitcoin is pseudonymous and you can use it more privately. But this wasn't perfect, you know. Like Bitcoin, I think one of the main issues that currently the big brains are working on is making Bitcoin more private and making it harder for other people to track where the Bitcoin is flowing, so to speak. And the third thing that Satoshi wanted to fix was kind of the internet itself, like the internet business model, by building something that works for micropayments. And I think his first approach kind of failed, and I think that's also where his understanding of Bitcoin kind of fell short. But I think Hal Finney understood that really well from the beginning. Like he calculated that like this will never scale, and that we need Bitcoin banks and other scaling solutions. And so now we have that. So I think in the end, Satoshi, or let's say Bitcoin, succeeded in making micropayments possible, because I'm receiving I just checked my node. I received over 5,000 payments in the last couple of weeks, which is insane. You know, like micropayments work. If I'm just going by the transaction statistics that Bitcoin critics will tell you, I'm like, what I'm doing right now would be impossible, because I'm blasting through these transaction limits every single day. Just be myself, you know. And there are many Bitcoiners like me. So we definitely have micropayments now, and I think it will change a lot of things online. And I'm super, super bullish on Lightning and all those new methods of streaming money, receiving payments, and doing all those kind of things.
Gigi, we need to open a channel. I need to have a channel with you. It has to happen.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. I have some girthy channels with some other plebs. So Brekkie, I'm actually surprised that we don't have a channel yet.
We have we just fired up a Swan node, so we should connect to the Gigi node.
Awesome.
Yes.
Let's bump nodes.
Let's bump nodes.
Let's bump ugly nodes.
That's true. Trip right there.
Yeah.
Camila, we need to get you running a node also. Brandon, I think you're running a node. We need to link all of our nodes. If you're in the audience and you don't know how to run a node and you want to get started, just DM one of us. We'll send you some resources. Everyone doesn't have to run a node, but you really should. You really should.
I actually have a question for Tomer, because I want to pick his brain, and I want to let him talk about Bitcoin's brain as well. I thought about, like, it has been a long while since I thought about Bitcoin as a living organism more deeply. And the last thing I landed on is that I think Brandon touched on it previously when he said you need the software, you need the hardware, and you also need the wetware, so you need the humans. And I think Bitcoin kind of lives in this intersection between meat space, cyberspace, and what I call fin space, which is basically markets, because you need economics and you need markets to make everything work. Like, the security rests on markets. And so my question to Tomer would be, like, if Bitcoin is currently growing, a poison gland and the brain and other things, what do you see as Bitcoin's outgrowth? Because that's definitely on the social layer, I would say. But what do you see as an outgrowth of Bitcoin in the financial layer, like in fin space, in the market layer?
That's a really good question. Wow. I haven't even directed my mind to that, which is interesting, because my background and education is all in finance and financial theory.
So I put you on the spot. That might be good. Having studied economics and finance, I think it is. I can't say exactly where it's going, but I think a lot of us have this notion that it really is overwriting all of this. A whole lot of the fiat wiring of the fin space, right? The fiat wiring of the fin space, I'd say, is multiple currencies with varying exchange rates, requiring options markets so people can hedge their risk, right? Which becomes the hugest part. Like the fiat space, the biggest part of it is all of this risk hedging, right? The derivatives are the biggest set of money that exists out there, and they only exist so that people can fundamentally just eliminate risk. And all that risk is going to go away when a Bitcoin standard replaces the fiat standard. So it'll be a very different financial space when everybody in the world uses the same currency, and you don't have to buy future hedges against the dollars or the euros or something like that. And so it'll overwrite all of these things. I mean, there's obviously still room for securities and shares in companies and shares in ideas. But we're just going to end up with a very different view of finance. And I guess it's interesting to me, like, the more that I zen about Bitcoin, the less I think it's about the financial space in the way that we look at the financial world today as so complicated. It's like there's a very simple thing that money should be. It's what people store to exchange with others. That's an abstract store of value that lasts forever. And I just wrote an article that I released today about why Bitcoin is the best money in the world, and it's called "Bitcoin's Fundamental Value is that it is the most excellent money that exists." It's on my Medium, and it just goes to this point that that's all we really need money to be, and then it enables all of this other outgrowth. So I actually think that my answer to you now, after rambling and thinking about it, is it's going to be a much simpler financial layer. We will not have as many bankers. You don't need an investment advisor who doesn't actually have any better information than anybody else in the world to tell you how to save your wealth for the future. The answer is one word: Bitcoin, right? And you don't need derivatives. The answer is one word: Bitcoin. And so I think it's just this massive simplification of the financial layer, and allows humanity to focus on other things
better things, real things, not derivatives of a fiat decreed system.
It's really sad, actually. I mean, Bitcoin gives me hope, so there's always that. But like when I think about all of these walls that are up between peoples like across the world, like the fact that we have so many different currencies, like it's, language I can understand, like and I think we're always going to have different languages, even maybe we'll converge, but like money, like the exchange of value, like we have these walls up between us and that don't have to be there. And Bitcoin to me is about bringing down those walls and just making the world a more free and open place. So it's sad and hopeful at the same time. I realized we never talked to Camila about what keeps her zen. And Camila, I know we always say this, but you're newer in the space than some of us. So how did you achieve your zen so quickly? It's like you climbed up the 1,000 steps of the monastery, and you did everything that the monks do in a lifetime, and you've done it in a year. So what are your secrets?
I think one of my biggest things is just the word patience. I feel like without patience, we run into trouble sometimes. So, for example, like you guys have only 12 years old, right? If you think about it, it's just like a kid. So it's like just patience. Don't look at the price. Think about these protocols that are created. Aside from Bitcoin, I just ran out of patience. Wanted things very quickly, kind of like that gratification very quickly. And it's like, if Bitcoin's like, you can't give up on a kid just because it's not where you want it to be. Just get rid of it, abandon it, and then create in hopes that one works. It's an insane idea to me. And that's why I think it's like, we just need patience. We need to realize that this is something that we're continuously working on, gone a long way in a very short amount of time, but there's still work to do. And for that, we just need to realize that, hey, this can be something that we're working for the rest of our lives. And hope, like a lot of us think, this is like the only hope that humanity really has in order to create a better world. So you can't necessarily give up on that if you don't have the necessary patience. So I started to look at it that way. And then in terms of looking at the thing, when I first read, I don't know where I read it, but when you think about it will always be one Bitcoin, you kind of start to divorce the fiat system way of thinking. It's like, why would I want to compare Bitcoin to the fiat price if it's going to be relevant at some point? Just keep stacking. Look at the price. If it's low, great. It's an opportunity for you to get more Satoshis. If it's high, then cool. Just keep stacking. Like that's the name of the game. Keep stacking sats as many as you can. There's only 21 million, it's a very rare asset for a lot of people. It's going to change the world. We need to get it in the hands of amazing Bitcoiners so that we can start building better societies, etc. So the price doesn't really faze me, even though I'm pretty new. I rode it all the way with you guys to all-time high, and then kind of crashed to 30K. But to me, it was really painful. It was just like, sweet, this is an opportunity for me to just stack a lot more than I thought I could. So
twice as much.
I would just make one really quick point about Bitcoin Zen. I don't think it's just about the price. Bitcoin to me is a test, and I think Camila brought it up. Like, it's a test of patience, it's a test of intelligence, it's a test of character, it's like a test of so many things. I think Bitcoin is testing humanity, and it's testing individuals within humanity, and you see the results of what you're being tested. Like, Bitcoin is this mirror that you hold up to yourself, and you end up seeing, do I have patience? Can I extend it? What can I understand about it? Like, nobody understands the whole thing. What about my integrity and my honesty? It's a space that's filled with opportunities for breaches of character. And so there's humility, somebody just said in the text. Like, there's just so much virtue that gets tested with Bitcoin. And so you can actually use it to grow your virtue and to see where you feel like you're failing and to respond.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. I really like the idea of Bitcoin being a mirror. Yeah, it's like there are a bunch of people that came to this conclusion that kind of, Bitcoin shows you where you fall short and shows you kind of who you are. And I also think of Bitcoin as since it is the ultimate money, and money is some measure of some things, it's also a very harsh judge, like as Seyfedin would like to say, it teaches you about opportunity costs, like, did you use your time wisely? Did you use, like, for example, the last 2 years, did you spend them wisely? Were you able to stack sets? Well, like, are you keeping yourself sharp? Are you keeping yourself in shape? Are you being productive? Are you doing something that is useful for society and for Bitcoin and for other things?
Yeah.
And I think I think all of that wrapped up, it's exactly what you've been saying, Tomer. Like it's a test of character in some sorts. And I think yeah, go ahead. I
have one other short article. I know I keep plugging my articles, but I have these condensed thoughts.
You wrote kind of 50 or so over the last couple of weeks.
I know. There's one I wrote called "Rich or Poor, Bitcoiners Have What Money Can't Buy," and I wrote it after the Miami conference, even though I didn't attend, just from the energy. And it's all about how the process of becoming a Bitcoiner gets you these virtues that you can't. Money can't buy you intelligence, can't buy integrity, can't buy friends, can't buy love. But in becoming a Bitcoiner, you have to research all these things. You have to learn. You have to build integrity. You have to do all of these things. And so I just point out the logic in that article of how, whether you have a lot of sats or not, by the time you become a full-fledged Bitcoiner, you have gotten a lot of these virtues that are things that money just can't buy, and it's priceless.
Absolutely. Yes, and Tomer has been prolific. And as many may not know, he's working with Swan now as editor of our private client services newsletter, research report, I should say. Research report.
But it's more than just a research report.
And other things as well. But it's been a lot of fun to have Tomer around, and he's just helping us make our writing better in general. So everybody here is working for Swan or has worked for Swan, and that just goes to show, in my mind, just how awesome the Swan Squad is. Just real privilege to work with everybody here.
Stay humble, Brady. Come on.
I'm saying how awesome you are, man.
Stay humble. Be humble.
I'm honored to be here.
Yeah.
Great. So absolutely.
I struggle with imposter syndrome.
I think
everyone does.
So the way we stay humble is we go in a circle. I tell Tomer how awesome he is. Tomer tells Gigi how awesome he is. We go all the way around, and then we don't have to talk about how awesome we all are as individuals. Right?
Yes, there you go. I see how it works.
I'm more in favor of, because the ice cream questions start popping up. Why don't we go around in a circle and do the ice cream stuff? So
I don't need ice cream.
My favorite ice cream is steak.
I'm lying.
No. We have two questions to answer here. I know we were going to focus on Gigi's favorite ice cream, but I was talking to Tomer about this, and I think we should talk about this also. Very important question. I'd like to know not only what is your favorite flavor of ice cream, but if Bitcoin were an ice cream flavor, what would it taste like? Take a second to think about it. I'll share mine.
Well, first of all, are you talking about Bitcoin with a capital B or Bitcoin with a lower K? Are we talking about Bitcoin's flavored ice cream or the whole protocol flavored ice cream?
No, it tastes like hope, Brekkie. It would taste like hope.
See, I thought it might be more of like a I think it would kind of taste like Rocky Road, because Bitcoin's, it's had a rocky road, but then it would have this ribbon of salty caramel flavored with no pointer tears. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things going on there, but
there's a little orange sherbet swirl in there too.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
I said I wanted to channel Gigi's thoughts here, so I was going to guess if Gigi was answering what Bitcoin flavored ice cream would be like, he would say it tastes like whatever you need it to taste like. Because Bitcoin is whatever you need it to be.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
I think that's the answer.
So
You got to
to
tell us,
add,
Gigi. Everyone wants to know.
so what Bitcoin would taste like? I I just think Bitcoin is a trip, man. So if it's an ice cream, like there are some psychedelic mushrooms in that ice cream. Maybe there's some ayahuasca in that ice cream. There are some psychedelic things in that ice cream. And if you eat too much of it, your mind is gonna melt. Like so yeah, it probably tastes amazing, but what will happen to you after you've eaten the ice cream is gonna be even more amazing.
It tastes like white rabbit. It's like a nice white rabbit that's been roasted to perfection with a little mustard glaze. And
Speaking of white, by the way, my favorite ice cream flavor is stracciatella. I don't know how to pronounce it in English. Stracciatella, Italian ice cream.
That's right. All right, ice cream flavors.
The ice cream without Pop Rocks.
Yeah,
Ice cream with
I've had that once.
Fascinating. Is that like something you get? Where do you even get that? Or do you just do it yourself? You like vanilla ice cream out of Pop Rocks?
Where do you even get Pop Rocks?
I don't know. Amazon?
We don't eat any of that fiat food anymore. But
Pop
actually,
Rocks?
yeah, they're delicious. I love Pop Rocks, but I've got a weird ice cream combo.
Sugar that pops in your mouth.
Have you ever had those buffalo flavored pretzels with like the buffalo sauce flavoring on them? I don't eat carbs and bad stuff anymore, but anyway, I used to. And sometimes when
Brekkie.
Anyway, take some of those, put it on vanilla ice cream. Trust me, it sounds crazy, but it's like the savory and the sweet and the spicy, and it's
that's bizarre.
yes.
But I trust you. I trust you.
Oh yeah. Well, think about this. You ever have buffalo wings and like cool it down with a little ranch or blue cheese?
Sure.
Same kind of same principles. It's just your blue cheese is the vanilla ice cream and it's frozen.
Okay. My mouth is actually watering, so you may be onto something.
I think I might get some wings tonight, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And put them on
All
ice
right.
cream. Just get dessert
Ice
and the
cream.
main course at the same time. Brand it, yeah.
Bitcoin does not.
Let's do this. What?
Bitcoin ice cream as an ice cream flavor, it doesn't taste like something that you want. It tastes like something that you need. And I really just wanted to say that so I can take over the mic, because I've been fascinated by a thought that was brought up earlier that I can't stop thinking about, which is that language creates reality. And what I mean by that is, I'll give an example. Eskimos, for example, they have like 20 some words for snow. And so they literally see the snow differently. Inuits, as the appropriate term, they see the snow differently. They see the world differently. Or some tribes in Papua New Guinea, they don't have personal pronouns. There's no I, me, my. And so it would be just the boat or like coconut or whatever. And so in that type of world, if there's no personal pronouns, everything's communal. So their reality is shaped by the language that they use, right? And so if Bitcoin is a form of economic language, those of us who are speaking Bitcoin, we should theoretically see the world differently from those people speaking fiat, right? And maybe that's just lower time preference and choosing to save instead of to spend, or we can see actually maybe like a fundamental, deeper economic reality because of the price mechanism, right? Bitcoin's price mechanism is emergent from the market rather than given to us by our fiat overlords. And I don't really know where to take this, but it's just a thought. And I think this panel would have some comments.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying is so true. It's like we've been given this revelation through this language of Bitcoin. And I spend so much of my time trying to explain to people who don't understand Bitcoin and build little bridges so that they can cross over in bits and pieces. And then gradually the whole comes together. And I feel like I'm speaking to people who don't understand the language that I'm speaking. I'm trying to convert everything into a language that they speak, but some of the things don't translate. Like Gigi and I think we were on a Twitter thread. Like keys aren't keys, private keys aren't keys, wallets aren't wallets.
Yeah, coins
aren't coins. So we're trying to make these translations, and ultimately, until you learn what these things actually are, you're working with metaphors that are incomplete or flawed to some degree. And when you have this whole flawed view of reality, because you were born into a system, you think that money is what the government says money is, and you think that totalitarian control of money is the natural order of things, your reality is shaped by it. And so we've all come across people who we're trying to explain it to, and there's these archetypes of people with certain objections, like the government will stop it, right, or the government will tell people to stop it, and there are some people you just cannot explain to them that the government cannot stop it. Or that money doesn't have to be something else other than money. That's another object. That's the article I wrote today. It's like, there are some people who are just so hung up on the fact that money needs to be something else. And I discussed with them, well, does a hammer need to be something else to be a hammer? Does a book need to be something else to be a book? Does it, everything that's engineered is engineered to be the thing that it is. And Bitcoin is engineered to be money. It doesn't have to be cufflinks. Like, it's ridiculous. I think my favorite line in my article today is like, salt doesn't have to be able to recite poetry to be a good seasoning for steak, right? And Bitcoin doesn't have to be anything else for it to be good money.
True, but a good steak can be like poetry. Someone in the chat, Ion Disruptor, you've been asking, this is probably the third time you've asked, but we got to give it some airtime. What is everybody's simple one-line explanation of what Bitcoin is? And I don't think that this exists, but let's give it a shot. Tomer, what do you got for it? Bitcoin is money.
It's a record-keeping system, unlike any other record-keeping system you've seen before, that keeps track of just one thing: Bitcoins.
Yeah, I'm with Brekkie there. Like, I don't think there is a good one-liner. It really depends on who you're asking to. Bitcoin is different things for different people, so you have to explain it and pitch it and understand it differently depending on the situation. But I really like, if you put the gun to my head and force me to come up with a one-liner, I really like Bitcoin is BitTorrent for money. Because I think everyone who has experience with BitTorrent and has used it in the past understands the unstoppable nature of it. And I think the most important thing to understand for Bitcoin is its unstoppability, and everything rests on its unstoppability. Ion,
you trickster, okay? You trickster. You got us. That was your point all along? Okay, all right, we're hiding your comment now.
That's a good point. Mine is our money is broken, and Bitcoin is better money that will help us build a brighter future.
Nice.
Brandon, what's up?
I would say that Bitcoin is an artifact designed to save man from himself.
Nice.
Camila, easy. Just stop that.
You're
batting cleanup, Camila. Don't let this silly stuff intimidate you.
I think Bitcoin was going to create their own version of the American dream in the land without having to go anywhere.
Nice.
Wow, awesome.
Similarly, Bitcoin is universal basic property rights.
Yeah, Bitcoin is truth. Bitcoin is love. Like, those aren't memes. It's actually true, all of it. Like, Bitcoin is the closest thing to absolute truth we have as humanity.
We should build back better with Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Bitcoin
exactly.
Only Bitcoiners can build back better.
There you go, AKS 747.
And like, pure love only exists in cyberspace. You cannot do purely voluntary interactions in meat space. At least you can't do them that well, because you will always have the exchange of atoms, but the exchange of information can be completely, like, without force, and it has to be purely voluntary. That's why Bitcoin is the most peaceful money, and Bitcoin is love. So there you go.
One Love Bitcoin. We should plug the new show. Give a little teaser, Brekkie. One Love Bitcoin coming out next week.
We should. Yeah, next week. You know him, you love him. He's been on our show a couple times. Dread, amazing Bitcoiner from Jamaica. We're helping him put together a new show called One Love Bitcoin. He is going to be interviewing a Bitcoiner in every single country on earth. That's the goal. He's going to be showcasing some of the amazing work that's being done in places that the mainstream media doesn't always cover. So he's interviewed some folks in, I think his first few interviews were, he went down to Bitcoin Beach. He spoke to someone from Senegal. He spoke to Calcasa from Ethiopia. He's speaking to people from all over, and he brings such a magnetism to the show that I'm so excited for the rest of the show after having seen the first few episodes. So they're dropping this week. Did I leave anything out? Did I forget anything? I think that's
it, man.
That's great.
It's going to be on this YouTube channel. And then also as a podcast at onelovebitcoin.com. So excited.
I think that's all we got, folks. It's been a great show. This type of show could go on for 21 hours or longer. So I have to be the host, and I have to nip it in the bud so that Gigi doesn't sweat out all the moisture in his body in that green suit.
Too late for that.
The rumor mill says that he's started to use diapers, so he doesn't have to change it anymore. But
if I'm doing another 4-hour plus podcast, I might have to think about that. That sounds actually like a good idea.
I'm not so sure.
All right, so I think we'll call it. Thank you to everyone in the audience. We had a lot of fun with you today. A lot of fun chatting. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Tomer, Gigi, Brady, Brandon. Go find your Bitcoin Zen. Go have a great weekend. Go sign up for Swan. Go sign up your family and friends for Swan. Go to swanbitcoin.com/YT. You can get $10 free Bitcoin when you sign up. You can also sign up for Camila. Camila, what are they going to sign up for?
She's frozen. Okay.
We can't see it,
I
Brekkie.
froze, right?
I was trying to
perfect time.
Camila, what are we signing up for? Swan Force.
Swan Force.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
No.
Right. That's true.
I commented on my Twitter. Anyone that wanted their Swan Force link, you can do it in the comments. So just kind of bringing awareness that a lot of people have links and sometimes they're shy to share them. Well, I'm giving you my platform so you can share them, and hopefully someone finds it and uses it.
Oh, one other thing before we go. We are working on a campaign, super secret. I think we've talked about it once or twice before. It's called Bitcoin is for Everyone, and we're collecting interviews. It's a few simple questions to really get to the heart of, and show that Bitcoin really is for everyone. We've collected some amazing interviews from people from all walks of life, from all over the world. If you'd like to participate in that, I'm going to drop the link into the chat, and I'll put it in the show notes also, or you can just DM me on Twitter. Just say, hey, I want to participate, and I'll share the link with you. It only takes a few minutes, and we'd love to have you participate.
Gigi, do one, buddy. Should do it right now.
Yeah.
It takes 3 minutes, and you're all set up.
I'm game.
That's true. We should just do it right now.
Yeah, and this is going to be a really cool campaign, guys. We're going to blow this one out of the water. So if you want to be a part of the campaign, just follow the link Brekkie's going to share. Give us 3 to 5 minutes.
Super powerful. We have answers to questions like why do you Bitcoin and stuff. We have 5 questions, and it's going to be amazing. Brekkie's put together a couple of rough cuts, and it's incredible. How does that show up? Oh, yeah.
Cool as hell. Oh, look at that. I love what's going on there.
Whoa, that's even better.
I think I can actually see Gigi's face.
Yeah, now the light did not adjust back.
Yeah.
That's even better, dude.
Oh, it's really cool.
That's very spooky. Oh, I'm coming back. There you go.
I don't think you knew how that happens.
No. Happy accident.
Happy little accidents. Yeah. Modern day Bob Ross.
All right, Gigi, do you want to do this live on the air, or you want to answer these questions?
Sure, go ahead. I'm born ready.
Why? He's got to use the thing. Are you gonna just record it?
I mean, yeah, we're recording now.
Okay.
All right, Gigi. So hold on, give me a second. We'll go to the questions.
I'm gonna have to drop off before you say you get Gigi's recording. So love you all. This has been amazing.
All right.
And I will
take care.
Thank you, Tomer.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Tomer.
If anybody else has to drop, feel free. I can handle Gigi for a few more minutes, I think. Or if you want to hear Gigi's answers. All right, Gigi. We've got 7 questions for you. The first question is, what is your name? And can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm Gigi. I'm the author of 21 Lessons, and I work for Bitcoin. You need more than that?
No, that's good. That's good. We need your social security number. We need your address.
Short and sweet is good.
Yes. Question number 2. Why do you buy Bitcoin?
Wow. Okay, that's a good question, actually. I think once you understood that Bitcoin is the best money, there is no reason to not convert bad money in better money. And I think what American Huddle is saying about this as well, stacking sats is self-love. So I just try to be good to my future self and stack sats to be better off in the future than I am now. That's the basic idea, I guess.
I love it. All right. Number 3 is, how would your family, friends, and coworkers benefit from embracing Bitcoin?
I think everyone can benefit from embracing Bitcoin. It depends on how hard you want to embrace it. I think there is a spectrum of just tipping your toes in, and stopping smoking, for example, would be a good idea, and just saving this money in Bitcoin. And of course, there are crazy people like myself that go the opposite route and just whatever you don't need for immediate living expenses, convert into Bitcoin, because again, it's the best money that humanity has ever seen. So in terms of friends and family and coworkers, all my friends and family and coworkers are basically Bitcoiners. So they are benefiting from Bitcoin already. And I think the main benefit depends on your situation. I think in the West, it's mostly seen as hedge for inflation, basically, a way to save over the long run. And if you are in countries where the payment infrastructure does not work for you, for example, or if you are pursuing a career where the current banking and payment infrastructure is not working for you, Bitcoin might serve you very well just because you're not able to have a bank account otherwise. So yeah, those are the main benefits, I would say.
Good answer. All right, next one. Oh, I'm actually curious who you say for this. If you could educate one famous person about Bitcoin, if you could orange pill them, who would it be and why?
Dead or alive?
You could do both, but alive. Someone living today.
Okay, someone living today. I think I gave this answer once before, and I think I'll switch it up a bit. I think it would be the Dalai Lama. That would be nice. He has an orange robe already, so I think it would be fitting.
So I got that going for me, which is nice.
What, Brady?
What?
That quote from Caddyshack. He's like the Dalai Lama blessed me on my birthday in Tibet, so I got that going for me, which is nice.
What got that going for? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I think someone religious like the Dalai Lama or the Pope, would go a very long way towards making it everywhere. All right, only a few more, Gigi. Thanks to the audience for bearing with us as we do this. So as part of this campaign, we are compiling a montage. And for this question, we're basically asking people to say that Bitcoin is for, and then insert kind of however they self-describe themselves. So Bitcoin is for teachers. Bitcoin is for the Dalai Lama. Bitcoin is for chefs. So I don't know what you consider yourself, maybe a software engineer, but I guess Bitcoin is for Bitcoiners doesn't really work. But what were you before you were a Bitcoiner? Maybe that'll work.
Oh, I have a great answer for that. Bitcoin is for NIMS, so you don't need an identity to use Bitcoin. You can be pseudonymous. Bitcoin is for NIMS. I'm a NIM online, so I think that's fitting.
Perfect. Actually, perfect. All right, and then the last one. What is the most exciting thing about Bitcoin?
Oh shit! Absolutely everything, man. Oh man, I have no idea how to answer that properly. I think currently it's Lightning. I think the Lightning Network is currently the most exciting thing because I think it will actually. I think it will. Everything will work better than most Bitcoiners are currently expecting it to work. And I think give the engineers working on this stuff like 2 to 5 more years, and Lightning will blow everyone away. I think it's so exciting what is currently being built, and it won't stop there. So there will be things built even, that we can't even dream up now. Built on top of Lightning and built on top of other layers. So I think the higher layer stacks of Bitcoin are insanely exciting, but absolutely everything is exciting. It's exciting that Bitcoin standard is currently happening years earlier than I expected in a country in El Salvador. It's exciting that people and companies and nation states adopt it for themselves. It's exciting that China was shut down basically, and Bitcoin didn't care, and blocks came in like basically still every 10 minutes, and all of this is very exciting.
Whew. All right, Gigi. Thanks, buddy. You've now part of the campaign. If you're watching in the audience and you want to do like Gigi and join us, shoot me a DM or scroll back in the chat. You can join the campaign. You can do the self-recording at home. It's super easy. It takes like 5 minutes. And I think that's all we got for today. I don't know. Why did you guys disappear? You just wanted to give Gigi the spotlight? Brandon? You had to go to the bathroom? Is that what it was? You had to go to the bathroom.
I was eating the rest of my lunch.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Brady. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you to our guests who have left already. Thank you to our audience. We will see you next week. I think we will have a Swan Lounge next week. I will be traveling, but I think we're going to do it anyway. And we've got some amazing Swan signals coming up. We're going to announce those shortly too. I'm very excited for you and for me because I want to watch these. Brady, you look like
we can announce them right now. Yeah, we have let's see, July 21st is Erica Rhodes. She's running against Brad Sherman in California 30. She's going to primary him next year. She's a recently announced Bitcoiner. She's accepting Bitcoin for her campaign. Erica Rhodes for Congress.com. She'll be appearing with, I believe, Alex Gladstein or Jan Pritzker, but I think it will be Alex. Just have to get confirmation from him. And then the next show will be Elise Killeen and Lynn Alden, which should be an incredible show. They've never appeared together or talked with each other and are very excited to do that show. And then we have Preston Pish and Andy Edstrom again at the end of August, which is one of our all-time fave shows. I think we've done 4 or 5 together now. So we'll get an update on the state of the markets from those two gentlemen. So yeah, lots of fire stuff. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications. Asha likes Swan Signal Live, don't you? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Gigi, special message from your CT is coming in. I don't know how do they do this, but Gigi, get back to work. Stop spending time with the swans. All right, it's devolved into craziness. We love you very much. We'll see you later. Keep stacking sats. Stay humble. Stay Swanish. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.